Hey everybody, and welcome back at another episode of Before and Afters, and it is Judgment Day today for the new Terminator Dark Fate movie. So much has already been said about this movie, and it's time for us to jump in too. As per usual, we share our expectations before we see the movie, and then we dive straight into our opinions after we come back from the cinema. This week's episode had some minor technical difficulties, so some editing had to be done, and the quality's not the best. Either way, thanks for listening, and please, welcome Rory to the mic.
Alright, well, we're back for what? We've got something that gives it away.
Frame it up. As seen on TV.
As seen on TV. Yeah, we're doing Terminator. The new Terminator. The 50th Terminator.
The 50th Terminator.
Have you seen all of them?
Like, honestly, I don't think so. I feel like after two, it's just like, I remember watching the other ones, but I can't remember what happened.
So what are your expectations then?
Not high.
Pretty low.
They're pretty low. Like, I know James Cameron's helming this one again. I bet he's been, producing everything. Like, every movie that comes out now is produced by James Cameron, apparently. So I don't think it means that much.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know. You can lie to me once and then fool me once and it's shame on you thing, but it's like I've been fooled too many times by Terminator movies, so now I just go into them expecting them to be garbage.
I think that's kind of the biggest problem. Like, since Terminator 2, it's always been so shit.
Yeah.
And by now everyone's just kind of tired of it. How many of these Terminators, like, right now, like the other thing is that, like, this Terminator feels like it's kind of like grandpa and grandma fighting. Is this the Terminator for your grandparents? Like Linda Hamilton, almost 120 years old. Arnold Schwarzenegger by now, also
1,000 years old.
Yeah.
T-1000.
Yeah, he is the T-1000. He became it. What if Skynet really exists? What if this future really exists? And they keep sending back people
to make
writing scripts so that we don't believe in it. They're like, shit, they're onto us. But what if we just keep making really bad Terminator movies and people don't want to see it?
Well, I mean, what do you think of just in general, like the whole robots taking over thing? Ruling humankind, do you think there's actually a possibility?
Well, you know what? Like, I definitely feel that, with AI and that kind of stuff, like, computers will outsmart us at some point. Like, we will write a piece of... Like, computers in general are always better at what we do.
Computers dumb as fuck.
At one given task, right?
Right.
But what if we start combining those tasks? Like, I think it's a way out, but there is a danger there where you could at some point, like, what if you could upload your brain onto the internet, which I think is going to be a real thing at some point, and then all of a sudden you're not limited to your bodily, limitations. Basically, what will happen if we become computer programs, or we have computer programs that can, function on our levels?
I don't know, man. If the predictive text on my phone is anything to go by, I think computers are dumb as shit.
Self-driving cars like Tesla are like anything to go by.
Yeah, well, it's supposed to be machine learning, and I think every year that goes by, the predictive text on my phone gets more and more useless at predicting language. And I'm like...
Maybe it's because we get worse about writing language, you know what I mean? Like English is just getting worse and worse.
Maybe it's me. It's not the computers. Shit.
You keep typing the wrong shit. The computer is learning. It's like, surely Brett is probably Brett with a T now.
Yeah, he's obviously retarded. Like, I'll just let him.
People only understand if I send them these kind of... Yeah. Well, there you go.
Shit.
No, but honestly, like, staying on that topic a little bit, like, we've been... People in talk like, how are we ever going to leave the solar system? How are we going to ever travel for light years when we can't even go light speed and that kind of stuff? And I truly think that, like, we'll sooner reach a point where we can actually upload our brain to a hard drive, which they're already working on, even though they don't even fully understand the brain. But, like, I think there's going to be a point where they do understand that, where we can be linked up to the internet. And the easier way is just, instead of, me getting into a rocket flying to Mars, and spend like 6 months getting there, I could just like upload my brain into like a cyborg or something, or like a humanoid robot, and just having myself experience Mars that way. Cheaper, easier, safer.
I mean, like, what would be the point? If you could make that, like, put someone's brain into a computer, why bother making a particular person's brain in there? Why not just make the best brain that's possible? Like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously,
now we're getting into a territory where things are getting really, like, anything can happen once you put a brain into...
It's like, because I mean, like, they just, like, brains obviously have the capacity to do all sorts of amazing things. And, like, if you just made one that was perfect, it'd be so much better than putting my fucking shit one in there. You know, like, obviously...
Oh, but that's where it's going to go, right? Like, now we're already going down the road of, like, evolution is, like, what's going to happen. Like, obviously, now we're going to naturally select brains and probably, you know, enhance your brain. Like, if you're saying, like, I'm an idiot, once you upload yourself and you pay for the extra non-idiot functions, all of a sudden you're a genius.
But it wouldn't even be me. Like, being stupid is who I am. Like, you know?
Isn't that happening with, like, with CRISPR and stuff?
Not that stupid.
He is. But with CRISPR, you know, like, where soon we can design designer babies, where you can before your baby is really growing, they can already edit your DNA, and so, like, you know, at your 60th year, you no longer get cancer, but they can also say, I want him to have blue eyes instead of brown eyes, and I don't want, like, you know, I want him to have, like, this certain skin type.
That's true, but they can't, let's say, like, we want our kid to not be a dumb, like, fucking waste of space. Like, he might come out and he might be, like, blue-eyed, not getting cancer, and he might just be like, I'm gonna eat Cheetos and smoke weed and sit in the basement
they can, like,
watching porn.
They can gene edit it so you never like weed. You know what I mean? Like, you just get.
Is that a gene? Is that a gene thing?
No, I don't know. Like, man, like, do I look like a CRISPR scientist? I'm sure.
Man, I saw that documentary. You look like you could be a biohacker, maybe. What do they call them?
Are you talking about Explain? No, wait, the one with the biohackers.
The biohackers, like those like rednecks and they're like gene editing in their garages and shit.
I feel like normal hackers are more capable of doing anything than biohackers.
Yeah, I think so. Imagine if they put their brains in the robots.
If they're the first ones and they make the decisions and they cull the human populations towards their brain capacity because they are the first ones in there.
Oh, yeah.
Then everyone just becomes their dumbness. That's like kind of like the Khmer Rouge kind of thing.
It's like we're going
to kill the smart people.
It's like we're robots, but we're back in the Stone Ages. It's like you got robots sitting in a cave, like trying to make fire.
They're real dumb. Real dumb robots. That would be a movie.
That should be a movie.
That should have been a Terminator.
Terminator 10,000 BC.
Yeah, I'll watch that.
Yeah, me too.
Actually, good point. Like, if you would make a Terminator, after Terminator 2, what would you do? Not make a Terminator.
Yeah.
Like, how would you... Okay, so yeah, how would your next Terminator movie look like if you would make a Terminator after Terminator 2? What would be cool? What would you want to see?
I mean, I kind of wouldn't, if that makes sense. Like, I want to see more Terminator, but it kind of...
You don't want to spoil
Yeah, it's like, it kind of...
What if you can't spoil it? What if you have a great idea? Because the way I imagine it is like, listen, if Skynet or whatever Skynet becomes, like, can send Terminators back in time, you know, like, would you really send back just one Terminator? Like, I would send one Terminator back to take care of John Connor, but, like, you can't, like, as a computer, you can't bet everything on one horse, right? Like, if you're really smart, which they must be, you send a bunch of them back to just kill every little threat that might become a threat.
And so just kill everybody.
Well, I mean, that's what they're doing at some point.
Just kill them all and then make Skynet yourself.
That's what they're doing. And then you have the resistance, right? Like, didn't they do the nuclear war, kill everyone, and then the resistance survived, and they are kind of winning, and that's why they feel like they need to go back in time and kill John Connor?
Well, why don't they just go back before John Connor was born and kill everyone then?
Well, that's what I thought as well. I mean, like, yeah, of course.
That's time travel movies. You can't think too far into them.
You can't break. You have to keep to certain rules, right?
Right.
No, well, there you go. Like, maybe go back in prehistoric times and kill Jesus or something.
Kill the dinosaurs. It was like robots.
Robots. The one dinosaur that evolved into a human.
Yeah. Robots killed the dinosaurs. Fuck.
Imagine that.
It wasn't aliens after all.
Yeah, what if they go back and like in like the next movie's about like how they find out that Terminators have been around for centuries. Like, they've been maybe really bad at changing the future. Okay, so like there's this one theory that says like big things in the future, I might not say it correctly, but the idea is that like certain things are almost inevitable to happen, right? Like, what is it? Judgment Day is always going to happen, even if you kill John Connor. Maybe you delay it a little bit, but another mum's kid will end up being John Connor, right? Like the resistance will always, someone else will step into his place, and another resistance will be formed. And I think that's also part of this particular story. But the concept is that, like, no matter if you keep changing the small things of the future, eventually it kind of just works its way around it, and it still will happen. The bigger picture will still happen. Like, humans will still exterminate themselves or fuck things up. That way you can keep making Terminator movies till the end of time.
To the end of time. That's a brilliant theory.
John Connor, then it's Jimmy Von Dyke.
Jimmy 3 feet. I don't know, like...
Yeah.
What about a Terminator in the future where, like, they send a Terminator back, it's still sending the Terminator back, but it's, like, set in the future already? How about that? So it's like...
Wait. So, like, we're actually way into, like, 2100, and then he goes to 2050.
Yeah.
Okay.
I want to just have flying cars, but I still want a Terminator coming back in time.
I feel like you want Terminator and Back to the Future in one thing.
Dude, yes. Imagine that.
They figure out a time machine in 2019, and they fly into the future, and they see all these Terminators. What if it goes the other way around? Like, the humans invent the time machines, and then they fly into the future, and they find out that we fucked it up, and then have to come back and change and find Biff Tannen and punch him in the face.
Dude, and switch it on its face. The humans come back and they're like, fuck, if we don't kill John Connor, then Skynet's going to happen. And the Terminators have seen, like, oh shit, we need to keep him alive. Or this guy
so Terminator 3 is like the Terminators send another Terminator back to protect John Connor from being killed from the T-1000.
Yeah.
And so basically it becomes like this, like, battle between Terminators that try to, alter the same history. Anyway, yeah.
That would be brilliant.
I would watch that. I always imagined that, like, wouldn't it be cool to have another Terminator movie that is set in the same day, the same time as Terminator 2, but it's doing a different mission, and at some point they kind of cross paths. Like, wouldn't it be cool that Terminator's driving down a road, and in his side mirror he sees this truck jumping off, like, a ledge and, like, into the canal, and then that's it. That's just the only reference to the other movie. It's just doing its own business.
What about in this new age of, like, crossovers and stuff with, like, the King Kong versus Godzilla and stuff coming out? What if we did, like, Terminator versus Transformers?
Wow, who would win? I mean, come on, Transformers like 10 times the size. They can fly, they can do all this stuff.
They can, but they can't turn into liquid bloody liquid metal.
Should we watch the trailer?
Yeah. Yeah, maybe we should.
Talk fast.
You first.
My name is Sarah Connor. August 29, 1997. It was supposed to be Judgment Day. But I changed the future. Saved 3 billion lives. Enough of a resume for you?
No. You may have changed the future, but you didn't change our fate. I know you're scared, but I'm here to protect you.
Never seen one like you before. Almost human.
I am human, just enhanced. Why do you care what happens to her?
Because I was her.
I can see you're very upset. I'm going to help you protect the girl.
Nobody else is gonna die because of me! If you don't make it, everybody dies!
Expect a big ping, brother. The whole body's a weapon. Sorry.
all over, I am going to kill you.
I understand.
I'll be back.
All right, that was the trailer.
First impressions?
So the first thing I was thinking, I want Sarah Connor to be really, really good. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's just, like, looking from the trailer, I think there's just definitely so much potential in her character. Like, I think
she's a badass. And Hamilton's just a badass.
for a 60-year-old lady, for grandma.
Yeah, dude, she's just like always has been, always will be.
Well, what has she done since? Like, I haven't really seen her
don't
since.
even know, but
I
she's
think
still
she's just
badass.
retired. I know.
Hunting
Apparently-
Terminators.
I know. Yeah, she's been hunting Terminators. No, I think, like, you know, there's just some really cool dialogue in there. There's some cheesy one stuff in there, but I just want her to be really good. Like, I think from watching the trailer, there is some really good potential of her being a badass.
Well, from the trailer, she definitely looks like the most badass aspect of it.
Of the movie.
Oh yeah.
And the other thing I have to say, and this is also what I remember from, you know, my time spending staring at it for 8 months, I do feel that Gabriel, who plays the bad Terminator, the bad guy, I actually think he's a really good Terminator.
You reckon?
Like, he's a really good bad guy. Let's put it that way.
I think I'll have to take your word for it, because from the trailer, all I took away from it was like, he doesn't look very menacing and he doesn't look very rememberable. Like, you know, like Terminator 2. What's his name?
Patrick? No, it's something. Neil Patrick?
I can't remember.
Patrick something.
But he has just got an iconic bad guy face. Like, you see him and you instantly like, that guy is the T-2000 and he's scary and he's menacing. And this guy here, I can't even remember what he looks like after the trailer. I'm like,
okay, but I would say from what I remember is like he got that really T-1000 vibes. Like, there's just a few shots that I remember where he's just like, you know, turning his head, and it's just very Terminator-ish. I don't know, like I've good feeling about like that aspect, because I think going back into the past, like some of the other bad guys, the bad Terminators, Terminator 3, the girl, like, to me she wasn't a Terminator, you know, like, and I have never seen Terminator 5.
well, for me, the first, like, for like Arnie and him as Terminators, what the biggest thing for me was that they don't have any emotion. It looks like
Yeah,
they
exactly.
don't have the ability.
But that's
for
what
it.
I
You
feel like that
reckon?
he's doing quite well. Yeah.
I reckon he does. That's the problem. Like, he's in the thing. He's like, "Hey guys," like he's talking like he's one of the boys at the cop thing.
Right.
And I'm
I
like,
see. Right.
And but I mean,
But then he says like
this
this stone cold thing is like my whole body is a weapon. You
Yeah,
know
but he
what I mean?
says it. I don't know. For me, yeah.
It's like my whole body is like a weapon.
Well, you're
That would be an amazing Terminator. Though.
Yeah, like,
super
like
flamboyant,
super
gay
camp
Terminator. It's like,
Terminator.
hey guys, you guys are gonna get fucked up.
I might watch it, you know, why not? Like,
I'll watch that. I also watch. I think any Terminator is gonna be like. I still have decent hopes for this one, but I think like there's so much you can do with the Terminator franchise that it's very easy to create like a fun experience. Yet they just can't do it. It's almost like they hire writers and directors that are almost like their skill is to fuck it up. That's just what they're really good at. Like, it's almost hard. It's almost difficult to fuck up a Terminator movie. That's what it feels like to me. And yet they still do. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to say, like, come back and say what my opinion on that is after watching the full thing. But from the outlook, from the trailer, for me, he doesn't have that like scary. He looks like a human, but he doesn't act like one.
Right.
Terminator vibe.
Yeah.
That I got from like the, you know, even Arnold Schwarzenegger and the guy who played the T-2000. They just have this like this look, which is like, I'm not actually here, which is kind of
especially in the early movies, like Arnold in this movie. I mean, I think that part of the story is that he is a Terminator that's been learning to integrate into society, so he should have emotions by now. But in T2 and stuff, like Arnold is a super stone cold motherfucker, you know, like, and so is T-1000, and to be honest, that is exactly what I think it should be, and it's so obvious that that's what it should be, and yet I feel even in this movie those aspects don't get back into it. Like like another point that really bugs me, and it's probably wasn't very apparent in this trailer, but the way the endoskeleton of the bad guy, you know, the Terminator, just the metal skeleton basically, the way that's been animated has no weight to it.
Right.
Like it's very elegant. It's very like iPod and smooth. Like he looks like a military grade like Terminator, like metal, but he moves very elegant and like I can, you know, like very light on his feet.
Yeah.
And I want Terminator, like it's a metal, or like even if it's carbon fiber, like it's a robot. It's going to be heavy, right? Like it's going to be rugged. It's going to be durable. It's going to be heavy. It's going to be mechanical. And here it's moving like it's, you know, like a piece of cloth in the wind.
Right. And like it feels like it doesn't need to be able to move like that because it's made of this stuff that can't take damage, right? It doesn't feel pain. It doesn't take any damage. So all it needs to do is be able to walk forward and like blast whatever it needs to do.
Exactly. It doesn't need to be fancy. That's a great point. Like it's a machine. It has a target. It has an objective, and that's what it wants to do.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to walk in a circle around to get to you. No, it's going to go straight towards you. Like it doesn't care about anything else in its way. It will fire its gun if that means it will harm other people. I do feel that, for example, that scene where he is a border agent and he's like just walking forward, and all these agents are trying to stop him, and he just keeps walking.
Yeah.
I think that's one of those scenes that just I feel like that's a very Terminator thing to do. It's like I don't give a fuck. I'm just going to keep going.
I really like the one at the very end too, where he blasts his face off, and it just like, you know, he just sort of sits there taking it, and then he like sits back up because that's the same sort of thing. It's just like it doesn't feel anything, and it didn't stop it, so now it's going to keep going.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just blasted parts of his face off, but you didn't really harm him. Even if you and that's the thing that happens in the other movies as well, right? Like Arnold gets his arm ripped off. I mean, it's annoying, but he doesn't care. He's got an objective and he keeps doing it. I don't know. I just want that ruthlessness in there, you know, and the simplicity of a robot. Like I don't want it to be elegant. I don't want it to be, you know, like there was that one shot where we're in the future and this Terminator splits off from his, and it's all tenderly and it's all alien-like, and it's just like, it's too much. Yeah. Like it's just like, you know, like it's not Terminators are not ballet dancers. It's not Cirque du Soleil, you know, like.
But that's that whole thing of like beforehand in the early ones. It's like you had one big action thing with the truck coming off the bridge, and then nowadays it's like you got to keep topping it, and it's like the guy has to like, you know, freaking jump out of a plane that's plummeting down and like have a fucking sword fight in the middle of the air before like grabbing the wings and coasting down onto it. You know, it's like and you're just like
It's like you can't have a normal fight anymore. No, it needs to be on a plane that it's going down on the outside. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know what would be a really interesting experiment with these things? I'd like to watch these movies with like a heart rate monitor and see like how you're like actually how you're stimulated watching these movies. Like, like when I watch a scene like in Terminator where he's walking down the hallway and it's like, you know, he drops down and it's like just like uses a shotgun to blast him away, and then they get out, and it's like a simple scene, but I remember it being really intense.
Right.
And I
like you mean the whole way when John Connor's like running around the corner and then the other
the
guy
Rose box and it's really intense, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wonder if, you know, that small period of like of not crazy action happening will get your heart rate up as you're like your body is sort of reacting to it more than like watching a minute and a half of a plane blowing up and falling down in the sky. Because I feel like when I'm watching those sequences in other movies, it's like I don't, you know, I'm not really on the edge of my seat for those sequences. Like I'm just sort of sitting back there, and the more and more crazy shit that's happening, the more I'm caring less and less about it. Like you know, like
you bring all this other stuff into the picture that you don't care about.
Yeah, well, there's just so much going on that I'm desensitized to the whole aspect of it.
Well, I think it's all about like, you know, like it's about the stakes, right? Like 1, you need to care about the characters. 2, you need to understand what the stakes are. And 3, you need to care about those stakes. And like in Terminator 2, a simple sequence inside of a hallway where the kid is trying to get away, and he, you know he's being targeted. You know he's going to be executed if he doesn't run away. And that just, you know, that's really all the stakes you need. You don't need to add an airplane that's falling out of the sky. You know, like that's not going to add anything to the stakes. It just makes it look prettier, or like there's just a lot more stuff to look at. But I think we just went way off the path of what we really, what a good scene really needs. And that's you caring about what's happening in the scene, and not about like, it doesn't need to be a painting. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like, and great if it is, but it doesn't. That's not why I go to the movies. Like, I like pretty pictures, but the main thing is that I care about what happens to our main character.
Yeah, I agree.
And I think that's what you're gonna get your heart racing. Because last night I was watching Seven with my girlfriend. That's a very intense movie, right? Like, there's some big fucking plot twists. And, that gets her up. Like, she's like, oh, fuck, oh, shit, and it's like, that's the reaction you want. And that's not even an action movie. There's no visual effects in that movie. There's no Terminators chasing anyone. It's just like, like a really well spaced out story, really well told visually, camera work wise, but also storytelling wise. You really care about what's happening in that movie. And it really gets you on the edge of the seat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It's like, I think
You made a point, I ran with it. I agree, yeah.
I'd like to actually try that. I know we get things that are like
Heart rate monitor.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've got an Apple Watch, right? It tracks my heart rate, so I'll wear it. I'm not sure how often it tracks it. Maybe I can download a specific app that just tracks it for like every second for the whole hour, and we get a nice graph.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
But it might also show that I'm a heartless asshole. It's just like it just flatlines the whole movie, except for the sex scene.
Yeah, like it's like
It's that gay sex scene that I just spikes up. And
is that a spoiler?
Oh no, I actually don't know. Two Terminators, making a little Terminator baby, like an Arnold and the bad guy, and it just becomes like, imagine half Arnold, half liquid. It's like a putting. It's like a putting face.
it's like a little like pool of Arnold.
We should maybe just watch it.
Should we just? Yeah, we should. Well, we have to give our like, what do you think?
Oh yeah,
scores and all that.
Okay,
The
yeah, good point.
Important.
Good point.
That's what everyone.
No. Wait. Before we go to the scores, I do still want to say, because we're still talking about the trailer, like that shot, the scene where the Terminators walk out of the water and all the skulls are on the shore. Like, that's what I want. I want a movie that's about that.
Yeah, but that's
Terminator
a shot
to
from
me.
the other Terminators as
Basically,
well.
right? Like, where he's just crushing the skulls and stuff. And like, when I see a shot like that, and it's like, yeah, I just want that. Give me more of that. And then you see like the next shot in the future is just a bunch of like alien-esque thing. I don't know. It's just like, I want it to be grounded in I don't know. I guess it's not reality, but I just want it to be.
No, you wanted to feel like a lived-in world, and
right.
Yeah.
No. All right, score. I'm just gonna go for a 3 stars out of 5.
Yeah, I mean,
it's probably gonna go down,
but
there's also a little bit of leeway for it to still go up.
I'd probably give it, like, based on the trailer and because of how I feel about like the last few Terminators we've seen, I'm gonna go 2.5.
Ooh,
just because
that's a 5 out of 10.
What?
Like if it's like
it's like right in the it's about as middle as I could think. Like, I don't think I'm going to watch it and be like, this looks like garbage, but I also think I'm going to watch it and be like, oh yeah, like, I'm just going to forget about it. Like, it's going to be, to me, I think it's going to be
forgettable Terminator movie.
Yeah. So I'm going to give it 2.5, and like, because I'm hoping that maybe, it surprises me in some areas and I end up I'd rather bring my score up than drop it.
And I'm with you. I think with a 3, it's still somewhat positive. Like, I think 2.5 is like, it's definitely not a pass. And there is definitely the risk that I have to drop it down to 2.5 or 2 if it's really bad. There's a little space to bring it up if I did really enjoy it. I want to say though, like, when we go in, I want your opinion about the first scene. I think it's the most controversial scene. It's been talked about. Lots of people hate it. It's also very personal. I worked on that scene.
Shit. It's shit. Whoever did this scene should be shot.
You'll be terminated. All right. Well, let's just go in and let's check it, and we'll come back and we'll talk about how good or bad it is.
All right.
Boom.
A few moments later.
Back in action.
And we're back. Did your heart rate go up at any point during the movie?
Man, I think I want to let you have your first say before I delve into my thoughts on this film.
Oh, really?
Or you can bring up the points. I know you were saying before you went in you wanted my feedback on particular scenes.
Oh, yeah.
Things like that. So that first scene.
Okay. So the controversial John Connor...
Spoilers on. Boom.
Oh, yeah. Spoilers are on.
No.
Yeah. So don't be little shits.
Don't be little mad people.
Yeah. Talk about it.
They look pretty good, actually.
So what happens? The first scene is kind of like we start with a little flashback to Terminator 2, where she is in the asylum and we see her talk, and then we shoot ahead to present day Mexico Beach, and she is there with her son John Connor,
Little baby J.
Oh, sorry, we don't go to present day. We go back to 1991 or whatever.
97 or whatever it is.
Terminator, whenever Terminator 2 was happened. So yeah, we kind of pick up straight after, and they're sitting in the bar. John Connor is getting a drink, and Sarah's sitting there, and then all of a sudden the Terminator shows up, and shit goes down. But it's one of those. I wouldn't call it de-aging, because it's actually not. We're not de-aging actual people. These are full CG characters or head replacements, really.
That was for all of the characters?
Yeah, for Linda, Arnold, and John.
Right. I thought it all looked pretty good except for one shot of John.
When he turned around?
Yeah.
I've heard this before. I think everyone consistently said that. And it's probably because that specific shot, he moves his mouth. His facial expression is that's the only time it's really
I think, yeah,
changing.
In the theater, I saw that him turn around. I was like, I was like, I saw it. It kind of made me chuckle, but the rest of it was like pretty good. Like,
it was actually really cool because I was sitting next to this guy, and he sat down and he saw that scene, and he started sitting on the edge of his seat,
right.
And I heard him say when Sarah popped up, and then when Sarah popped up, the young Sarah, he's like, whoa.
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, so far so good. Okay.
Yeah, because I'd heard you talk about it, and like
many times,
and it sounds like. It just, it looked good. Like, I don't know if they changed much of what was originally supposed to happen or whatever, but whatever they did looked good. And like we were talking about Gemini Man before.
Yeah.
Like this one here is like there was no there was not really there was no talking. Basically, all of the Terminator's shots, his face didn't even really move, right?
Right.
But I mean, it was as static as it would have been if it was acted by him in Terminator 2.
Right.
And so like there were still subtle movements or whatever, but it was enough that you weren't picking out faults. And his eyes were covered too, so they helped.
Yeah, and it's like Arnie has a very stoic face, and obviously he's playing a Terminator, so he's like his expression is not really changing, as you're saying, and so those were definitely the easiest shots for us to nail.
Right.
And I'm sure I cannot really go into much detail. But it was a super challenging scene for us, and it didn't completely work out the way we wanted to. And stuff has changed. I'm sure at some point more can be said about it, but I don't think today. But I think the assets, so the faces itself, they look good.
Yeah.
Like they spend a lot of time and effort into it, and like the hair, the face, the skin, all that detail was all there for Arnie and for Linda especially. And John was always a bit more difficult, but the struggle was always the animation.
Right.
And I think that one shot of John is, still kind of fighting that a little bit. But yeah, it was really... I always thought that scene was going to be very controversial and also technically quite challenging.
Yeah.
So in one way we kind of succeeded, and in one way we didn't, which is a little bit disappointed. But that was a good... I enjoyed being part of it.
Right.
Anyway, like in most of the second half of the shots in that scene were like ones I worked on. So like when he's on the ground, and when Sarah's being, flipped over backwards and thrown on the ground, and Arnie kind of turns his head and stuff. So those are fun shots, and some were smoother than others.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just interesting to get your reaction, and like in general people's reaction, because like there's a lot of people upset about their favorite character John being killed in the first scene,
Right. I mean, I thought that was kind of cool. I thought it was like, I wasn't expecting it, and so when it happened I was like, oh shit, okay. Like
okay.
That was like, okay, cool, sweet. So, but like, I mean, I think further on it didn't really make a lot of sense to me. Like I was just like, I guess I figured out like, sweet. So I guess they just kept sending Terminators back, and a different one got them eventually.
Yeah, and which is funny because we did talk about like, if I was Skynet, I would send more Terminators, and I actually did not know that this part of the story. Like, I was actually surprised in general how much I didn't know about the story, even though spent so much time on it, and
Right,
I've seen
yeah.
so much of it. And actually, that worked out really well because I could still very much enjoy the story and the movie itself.
So should I go first on what I thought about the entire thing?
All right, let's go. I feel like you have a lot to say about this.
I just didn't think it was very good. Like, you know what? Which is unfortunate because I found myself actually kind of enjoying it near the start.
Yeah.
Like I was watching it and I was like, oh man, like I mean, to be honest, all the action, like bits, like certain things about the action are all really cool. Like this sort of way that the Terminator, the bad guy, takes damage. Like he's always getting bits of his flesh like knocked off, and like you know it's quite brutal. Something, you know, it's like, you know, pounding him into the ground with like hammers and stuff like that. It's kind of cool, but the first act was like it was the pacing was so weird to me. Like the first act was action, like it was all this action, and then like really obvious like throwaway lines to try and advance the plot. Like they're just be like, I'm a Terminator from the future and I've been seeing it, and they're just like, oh okay, like, you know.
Yeah. It's just like, who the fuck are you? And she's like, yeah, I'm an enhanced whatever.
I'm
from the future, and yet
I'm an enhanced soldier. She just says it, and then like,
and she totally's like, oh okay, I'll just get into the car.
Yeah, and it's like take 10 seconds, and then you get like, I don't know, another few minutes of car chase, and I was like, oh cool. So I guess that's what's more important is the car chase.
Yeah, I actually wrote that down. I think I have a few opinions myself that kind of exactly tie into what you're bringing up. I do feel the editing and the pacing is quite poor in this movie. Like I think I think it's flat out bad. Like I think there's so much action.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that I kind of struggle with, especially, and when I really started to notice, was the car chase scene. And there was so much action in that sequence, and there were so many kind of pivotal moments, like important moments in the fight between each other. And I think this is maybe another thing that is happening in the last 5 to 10 years, but like I feel in this movie as well that certain big moments in the fighting are like you don't get the time to soak it in.
Yeah.
You know, like he gets like the bad guy, the bad Terminator gets punched in the face and kind of falls to the ground or something, and there's no moment to breathe.
Yeah.
He's already right up your ass. And I feel like that's such a poor, it's just sad because like I think, you know, the sequence itself is it's fun. It's just like a classic chase scene. It's a little bit of a throwback to Terminator 2 as well, which this whole movie kind of is in a way. But yeah, I mean, like I remember this, like it's simple stuff. Like I wish I could go over it frame by frame and just kind of point it out to people. But like there was this shot where the truck had flipped, and the Ref 9, the actual endoskeleton, was going to climb back out, and it's just like his hand, like he pulls out the rebar from the window, and it falls out on the ground, and then his hand comes out and it just kind of grabs the edge of the window, and it just immediately kind of just crunches the metal because he's grabbing it very quite strong. And I felt like you could make that shot 3 or 4 times longer, like, you know, slowly the rebar is getting pulled out, falls on the ground, give it a beat or two, then his hand comes out, then his hand actually puts pressure on the metal kind of crushes under him, and then like I feel like that builds up way more like momentum, and it kind of like shows a little bit of struggle, you know, that this Terminator, like it is still something that you could defeat. Like it's not just like, oh, you punch him and he immediately comes back.
Right. Well, that's the thing I was going to notice as well. But the top points for me, if I was going to give it the things I did enjoy about this, like just all those things aside, for the first half of the movie, I was still enjoying it, even though I thought that like throwaway lines trying to like expand the plot seemed like a bit sad to do it so throwaway, and then like so much action without really having any character development that early on was a bit sad. But I still was along for the ride, and I thought Sarah Connor was awesome, and I thought like Arnie as the Terminator was awesome, and the scene at their house, like the banter between those two was really cool. And I enjoyed like his character of the Terminator felt more like the older Terminator, like he's like kind of slow moving and just like powerhouse, and that was really cool. But to be honest, by the time they got into that plane, I just switched off. Like when they got into that plane and started flying away, and it was just like they're having that, like he crashes the plane into the other one and jumps onto it, and the plane's like bursting apart, and they're like flying around in the air, and I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. And then they land in the goddamn dam, and the Humvee is like that's been smashed up, is in the bottom of the dam, like not leaking any water. I was like, oh, these things airtight, and I was like, are these things airtight after they've taken like a pounding from the fucking falling from space, basically?
They're like 30 years old as well, right? Like those Hummers, like they're pretty old.
So at that point, I just kind of tuned out, because even like towards the final fight, like they're fighting this guy, and I was thinking about this as well, like compared to the Terminator 2, because Terminator 2 is very similar in the fact that he's not really killable. They can only slow him down, right?
Right.
But
because he's liquid metal.
He's liquid metal. How do you stop
it?
it? But like, and the point is, they weren't trying. Like most of the time, they were just trying to slow it down so they could get away. Whereas so many of the fights in this, it was like, this is where we make our stand. And I was like, against how? Like, you guys know you can't kill it, so they just keep doing the same shit over and over. Like they beat it up, and then it would just make itself, and then they'd have to do it again. I'm like, you guys keep taking damage, and this thing's gonna always be okay. Like. And then right at the end, she's like, you can kill it with this endocore thing. And I'm like, why didn't you fucking do that in the first place? Like, you knew that was the only way to kill it. Why didn't you do it? Like,
well, I mean, like, the original plan was to kill it with the EMP thing,
it wasn't hers when she first showed up. Like, she knew she went there she was like, I got sent here for a reason, to keep you safe, to kill this thing. And I was like, but you knew you had something that was able to kill it. And you also knew that was one of those two ways is the only way to kill it. And why didn't they send you back with one of those? Like in your hand. It wasn't inside you.
Yeah, right.
Like,
how did you not come prepared?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and this is like, I'm trying to remember, but I think the rule is you can't send anything through time unless it's wrapped around tissue, right?
Right.
But yeah, I mean, you're right. Like, that's a big plot hole, right? Like, and also that creates the need for Sarah's character, because like Sarah clearly has knowledge that they need to survive, and Grace's character also has knowledge and the ability that they need to survive. But really, Grace should have been enough. Yeah. Like as you said, like she should have known how to finish this thing. She should have come prepared. I mean, like. Yeah, I feel like the whole, like the mobile phone part is kind of funny. Yeah. But it's also like, like it's almost too big. I mean, this is not, like, it's a bit nitpicky because the phone thing is funny and it's fine. Like I can let that slip and slide, that's fine. What really bugged me was the atrocious sound editing, like the sound design.
Yeah.
Like maybe this was the cinema, but I doubt it. It's just like, it was so obnoxious. It was so loud. Like especially that chase scene that was like that really pissed me off. Like, like so much like engine truck sounds, and like, it was just so loud. Everything was so in your face with the sound design. Even in that point, like I pointed it out to you, like they were like in the airplane's cockpit, and they had like whizzing wind going past them. And it's like, I know you're trying to sell that you're flying through the wind, but
like you're in the get
the fuck out of here. Like you're inside of a cockpit. Like there's no wind sound in there. You know what I mean? Like it's not with a car window open or something. And it's just like, I felt that was probably the worst thing about the movie was the sound design. And I think that I was really disappointed in that.
Right.
And it really took me out, and it was really annoying.
Like, I think it was less of an issue for me. Like, I when you pointed it out, I started seeing it, and I was like, yeah, I see. But for me, it was just like, I knew it was this is what I felt like it was gonna be going in. Right. I just felt like the action was just gonna get too over the top, and it was just I was gonna stop caring.
Right.
And at a certain point, that's kind of like, and it sucks because at points through all those action, there were points which were fucking cool. Like when he's grabbing his head and smacking into the thing, I was like, oh, that's cool. And I'd have moments of being like, oh, that's a cool sequence of events. But like, there was just nothing behind them, if that makes any sense. Like I didn't have any emotional attachment to like characters anymore. Like I just, you know, at the end, it's like this big thing, like, oh no, I've got to die to save you. And I'm like, I'm just blank face. Like, oh cool. Like, why do we care about either of you again? Like you've got, like, you spent 90% of the movie just fighting shit and like almost passing out. But like, I haven't really seen who you are. I don't know really what you feel or why you know, like, I think, it was the fact that she was saved by her and like raised by her was pretty much obvious straight away. Right. Like the whole, oh, you're gonna have a kid, like, come on, like as if anyone was gonna fall for that one, right?
For the like, she was gonna like be the baby mama.
Yeah. I was just like, so I was watching that and I was like, okay, cool. So like, she was obviously a commander, but I didn't see that there was any deeper relationship until right
like
at the
why
end.
She was the one, like, there's no giveaways
until right at the end. They're like, she's the one that saved me and raised me, and then you get told that 2 seconds before she dies, and you're just kind of like, well, it's not enough time for me to process that this is like you telling her that she cares, that you care about her because she raised you and stuff, but she doesn't know who you are. You've literally showed up in her life 2 seconds ago, and then her brother died, which didn't seem like, massive.
I mean, she got over it pretty quick.
Yeah, and then like her dad's dead as well, and then like she's just saying, you got to follow me, you got to follow me, you got to follow me, and then when she silently sacrifices herself, this chick's in tears over it. It's the same thing with like when they showed up at the Terminator set. She's like, "No, don't do it." And I'm like, "Why do you care? You don't even know what this is." Like they just said it's a Terminator, and like you're like, "Don't kill him." And I'm like, you have no attachment to this guy.
Yeah.
They're like this. I don't feel like, I know you're trying to say like, oh, these characters have attachments, but like you're just telling me they do. You're not showing me it. That makes sense.
And that is probably why I think what connected most to me in this movie was Sarah Connor.
Yeah.
And when she shows up to Carl, the Terminator, because and it very much ties into what you're saying. It's like we know Sarah as a character. We know what she's been through.
Yeah.
Then we also know about John Connor. We know what he's been through, and we care about his character. And then that character gets killed off early on in the movie. And those, so we know there's a lot of emotional tension there. And then she sees the Terminator that actually killed her. And to be honest, I actually feel that she put her anger aside way too easily.
Yeah.
And I really enjoyed that tension. I think the best part of the movie was Sarah, not like being really fucking stingy.
Like, get your hands off me and shit
exactly.
like that. Yeah.
And I wish, there was a stronger, like when they first met, there was a stronger struggle. Like I wish I had seen her struggle more with the fact that she needed to get over her personal problem for the greater good. And it was a little bit there, but it wasn't quite enough.
Yeah.
And I feel that is, and again, that's also the point you make. Like, I feel like there's a lot of ingredients in this movie that feel very good. Like, there's some really fun action. There's some really cool ideas. But I feel either a lot of these ideas are not really being taken anywhere, or they happen too fast to get a meaning.
Yeah. Like you said, we know Sarah's like how, like, and we know her relationship to the Terminator and like and all the things she's been through. But that is just like not something that was set up in this film. This is something that was set up in Terminator 2. And
but you can immediately see the difference.
Yeah.
Like, there's time and energy spent in the past for us to get to know and care about these characters. And in this movie, they clearly don't. No. And you instantly feel the difference between a character that is Sarah or a character that is Danny or Grace. We instantly don't care about them.
I would way rather see shorter action sequences, maybe have more of them, but shorter ones, and like pepper it between like some actual character development. Like in Terminator 2, there was so much of it, right? There was so much time spent where he's with the Terminator and teaching it human, like trying to teach it human stuff, like teaching him how to say "a la vista," like like hasta la vista, baby. It's like he taught him that shit, and it's like then he says it, and it's like these little moments that tie back and have something like that involved, but there was none of that in this. I feel like
so because like in Terminator 2, you can clearly see there's an action sequence and there's like the calm down after it where it just slows down. They have to get away from the T-1000. They end up at the old petrol station where they take out the bullets from his chest, and it all winds down. It all slows down to a slow pace, and we get time to start caring about these characters. Like, we see John interact. We see them having the opportunity to destroy the Terminator when they take his chip out to turn it into self-learning mode. And they don't, and all these decisions, all these little decisions, John trying to teach him things, like, all these little decisions, they feed into you caring about these characters. And, so we have that moment. We have the moment when they show up at their Mexican brother where they, in the end, get all their weapons. Yeah, which is kind of similar to Carl's place. And then it happens again after they shoot up Miles Dyson's house, and then he shows, is like, show him, and he shows him he's a Terminator. Yeah. So, like, after all these big action scenes, there's like these massive come downs where it just all slows down, and it's all character driven and story based. And it probably is that studios don't think that's like old school. Maybe that's just there's old people talking.
Maybe no one cares about it.
But I don't hear anyone maybe I don't have the right friends, like maybe we're all too old and young kids are like, yeah, that's fucking awesome, like I cared so much about Danny and Grace. But I actually never hear that, and I feel it's really missing that kind of stuff.
Well, I feel like that's why, it gets these Metacritic reviews, which are kind of all over the place. Because, like you say, like, it's, if you went there and you, like, wanted to see something entertaining, like, the action's kind of entertaining. Like, I did enjoy, some of the sequences, like, when she's hitting him with the sledgehammer. It was kind of cool.
Like early in the car.
Yeah.
So that, you know what, though? Like, that was not a bad sequence. Like, it was kind of fine. But it went on for too long.
Yeah.
Like, it turned into something so crazy so quickly. And there were, like, some of these cool shots. I remember the shot where she's, like, sledgehammering him in the head.
Yeah.
And then again. And then the concrete under him is kind of, like, cracking up. But it just all looked a little bit like, like the visual effects didn't look that great. Like, I didn't feel it was too thought out, like too integrated. Like, and the next thing is that it just went away too quick.
Yeah.
Like, you just sledgehammered him 5 times into the ground. Like, the ground, like, I just want, after that, I want a little bit of time to see, like, oh, you fucked them up bad.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh shit, he's coming back, like, I want to be taken through that roller coaster of emotions, and it's like they don't give you that time.
I think that's when that comes back to that whole thing I was saying about the whole end sequence, and I just checked out because it was the same thing. Like, I just stopped. There was just like the stakes just disappeared because they'd always like do something cool, and then it just like a second later he's back up, and I'm like, okay, now what are you gonna do? And then they do something cool, and it's like, okay, now what are you gonna do? It's like, oh, they kill him again, and it's like, okay, now he's back again. Now what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Kill him again. It's like, you're gonna just keep doing this over and over and over again. Like, what's the end game here?
And they relied on so many external factors as well. It's like there was always that convenient, like, how do you know to be here? Oh, I got a text,
Yeah.
And then it's like, all right, we'll show up to whoever sends you that text, and that person is a help. And then it's like, well, how are we going to kill this guy? Only an EMP will do it. It's like, oh, well, I got a guy. It's all a little bit too convenient, and it all comes to them too easily. And then they have the EMP, and then those EMP whatever bombs or whatever, they get shot at, like, and it breaks, and it renders them useless. And Arnold shows up and is like, oh, we've got a problem. We lost the EMPs. And they're like, okay, well, that's shit. And then they just move on.
Yeah.
There's no, like, significance behind that. Like, the EMP was your end game. Like, you were supposed to lure him in and EMP him. You break it, and then it's like, oh, well, we'll just keep running then.
Yeah, and well, that's
There's
the thing
no
that
way to
annoys me
anything.
is that, like, that whole thing with Grace is like, well, like, she can kill me, I can kill him with this thing that's inside of me. And it's like, she must have known the whole time, but like when they said the EMP's done, she just decided, well, we'll just keep running then. It's like, what was that not her plan? Like, did you not want to keep the thing, like, Daddy alive? Wasn't her first plan? Like, all right then, I guess, no, like, before they even brought up EMPs, I thought she would have been like, right, well, I can kill him, but it's going to be at the cost of me. And they'd be like, they probably would have made the plan around that from the get-go. I don't know.
I mean, I can kind of understand that wasn't the game plan because, like, Grace is obviously the strongest. Like, originally, she was the strongest part of the team.
But she doesn't have a game plan.
Which is the weird part, right? I agree. Yeah. And also, Arnie has the same. Like, doesn't he have a power thing? Doesn't he have, like, some... Why don't they sacrifice him?
I guess he's not the same type. Maybe, I don't know.
Right.
I mean, the way he died was cool, though. That thing was cool.
Yeah. Yeah, like they're pulling off the flesh
like,
of the arm.
Like the guy's like clawing at it, like, and it's like pulling it up. And he's just like, I just like the whole way through the fight, he just got more and more fucked up. And it was like more and more like just like whatever little bits of his mechanical like body was still working to try and like, it's just like, I have no, like his leg doesn't work. He's only got one arm. He just grabs the guy and flips over the thing with him, basically.
But we already saw that in Terminator 2, though.
Yeah.
And in a way worse extent as well, where he's got his arm crushed and then his leg fucked up. And then at some point, he's just like dragging himself over the ground, just one arm at a time. Like, I do love that, but we have seen that before, which I don't mind seeing it again, but you're not really... Yeah, it's just like you're kind of doing the same thing over again.
Yeah.
And apparently, since we haven't seen Terminator Genesis, but from what I've read or heard, is that like I think that is also how they finished the Terminator in the last movie.
Oh, really?
Also with that power source thing, which is a bit lame, if that's the case. But hey,
I haven't seen that one.
Yeah, same. Can't really comment on that. But there is like, you know what? Like there were a few moments where I really saw the Tim Miller banter.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy that. Like I enjoyed, going in. I was wondering how well Sarah's character would like live up to the expectations, and she is. You know, like she's doing better than I expected, and she is kind of like the star of the movie.
Yeah, I think she is. I think she is for sure. Like, she's the best character in the film, I think. Like, she's still a badass, like we thought she was going to be.
I still feel though that she's suffering from all the bad elements around it.
Yeah,
like she's great, but she hasn't been given the opportunity to fully shine.
Right.
But yeah.
But I found like she was the part I enjoyed the most, and the best part of the whole film for me, which is. I guess this is kind of sums up what I'm going to think of the overall product. My favorite scenes were when they're like sitting around and bantering between her and the Terminator, like which he's just like doing real barbed digs, and Arnie as well, like that little bit of humor where he's like they're waiting for the guy to show the EMPs, and he's just like talking about his job because he's just a robot, and he's just like that's what he does, right?
He's been trained to just like do small talk now after all those years of infiltrating.
Yeah. And he's talking about the blinds, like it's like it's something people would care about because he still doesn't technically get emotions, but doesn't understand humans properly. So he's just telling this stupid story about. And
she's just like, "Are you okay?" And he's literally suffering.
Yeah,
because he's telling such an idiotic story, and then the guy shows up and who's this? Is he your bodyguard? And he's like, I do drapes.
Yeah,
and it's like that shit's all really funny, but it's just there's not enough of it.
Yeah,
it's either not enough of that or. I think there's too much action, really. Like I think you cut out half the action and really focus on the better ideas within the action. Like you would have had a pretty decent movie.
I would
still not have cared about Denny.
I also find it really hard to believe that she was a badass commander like in 2 years from like this like random girl like who was working at a machine plant, and then suddenly she's leading the human resistance against the robots. Like when you see her, you're like, okay, well, so she was basically maybe 10, like not even 10 years older than she is.
She looked the same.
She looked exactly the same.
She looked the same in the flash forwards, I guess.
Yeah, and I was like, how does she like organize the militia to fight back? And
she didn't look badass at all. I mean, she was quite annoying at the start when she was like playing the dumb chick, basically. That all being said, though, I do feel the movie was better than I expected, personally. Like it's not great. I think there's a lot wrong with it. Like I don't like the pacing. I don't like the sound design. I don't like, how there's so much action and not a lot of like, depth to the story and caring about the characters. But I still thought it would have been worse, to be honest.
Yep, same. Like if I'm gonna give it my score.
Oh,
yeah, I'll give him a score. Like I think I'll have to bring it up to a 3.
Okay,
because I would go and see this film and like you watch it and I'm not like I don't feel like I was wasting my time. Like I enjoyed
it's just too bad that it's like it's a franchise I love. Not a franchise. I love Terminator 1 and 2, or 2 mostly.
Yeah, and
it just sucks when you love something so much that it just doesn't live up to that.
Yeah, that's what I feel about it as well. Like, and the fact that it's got Sarah Connor, like it's got the actor like Linda Hamilton and Arnold Schwarzenegger in it as well. Like that is also kind of makes it worse in a way, because I'm like they're so good and they are the original things, and I feel like having them in here, they're almost trying to coast off of how good that one is, and it's like it's just a bit sad that they are I feel like they're being used for that, and it didn't help. Like it did help that they were in it, but it like can't save the fact that the movie wasn't well written.
Yeah, and you know what? It's great to have Sarah back. Like I think she is good. Yeah, and we're gonna I'm pretty confident that. Like, I mean, the movie's not doing too well in the box office, but if there's going to be, it's probably going to be another trilogy they're going to try, she'll be back.
And hopefully they bring Arnie back as well. There could be a million Terminators.
This is what I was saying, though. I think Arnie is done.
Yeah, probably. I think so.
Unless they do a CG younger version of him. But I just, he's too old now. Like, I feel it's just weird. Like, yeah, it's just looking at Grandpa. Like, there's not a lot of strength to him. Like, they're stretching it a little bit thin of the believability that he's still the reasons for him to be around. Right. Like I do feel like his story of like, oh yeah, like I like the bit where he's like, oh, like my initial mission was over, and so I just continued with infiltrating. Like I like that idea, but then the whole story about like, oh yeah, no, I found this is my wife and we were together, and then like she had a son and the dad threatened to kill him. It's like that all just went a little bit too far. It's like didn't need that part. Like I would have been happy if you were just not with someone.
He was just in the forest.
Yeah, he was just like, Carl the carpenter.
Yeah.
And he didn't have a family, Like, I think that was just one step too far. And it's just a little bit sad. And, I mean...
I guess they needed to give him some reason to want to help him in the first place. Like, he needed to have discovered some kind of robot empathy.
Why?
Because
I don't think the family added anything to the story.
No. But if he hadn't found some sort of robot empathy, there was no reason he'd have helped them, because he would have just tried to kill them as well, right? Like, his mission was over, but why would he help them?
Well, but why would he kill them?
Well, because they showed up at his door, and like they're tied to what his original mission was: kill John Connor, and now these other people show up. One of them's been sent from the thing. I feel like either they'd try and kill him and he'd defend himself, or he needed to have found some kind of empathy where he was where he would, like, at that point he was he had remorse for what he'd done, because he's like, now I understand. I understand what you're going through. Like, I wouldn't want that to happen to my. So he had to have something that gave him a reason to help them and to redeem himself.
He did say it that way. I just find it super, like, I find it a little bit of a. That is one of those things that I find a little bit too convenient, and it's just it's a bit of a MacGuffin. It's like, all right, we'll find him this family, which gave him a reason to change and grow, and now be the perfect helping partner, and I don't know, the texting and the other thing is for Sarah to show up, and it's like, oh, I show up because I get a text every time, be there, this place and stuff, and that I find that another one of those, like, it's just a little bit too convenient of an excuse for you to show up. Like, I wish there was a little bit more effort involved. Like, you would have figured it out. Like, you would have figured out that there's some... You said, like, oh, every time time travel is happening, there's like a ripple in the time continuum of something. And it happens before it happens. And it's like, it would have been more interesting if she had figured that out in a different way.
Right.
Instead of just conveniently have a Terminator sitting in the forest somewhere
with
a lot of guns.
It still doesn't make sense, because like he sent her to a location where they appeared, and like she found them on the motorway, which is definitely not where they appeared.
Right. That's pretty good. And she was late as well, right? Yeah. I would say, so I gave it 3 before we went in, right?
Yeah.
I would definitely like bring it up to 3.5. Like, I think a 3 is a little bit too low. I think, as I said, I was surprised it was better than I expected. I think there's a lot of stuff wrong with it. And I think another problem is that because I am so attached to the franchise, I am pretty harsh on it.
Right.
Which is fair. I mean, it is an existing franchise. But I think it had a lot of potential. Like, if they were doing another one in this particular universe, like if they do a Terminator that follows this one as they kind of set it up, I just wish it wouldn't be Tim Miller directing this. Like, I'm not particularly a fan of where he took it.
Right.
Like, I think a lot of decisions that like are his responsibility, I wasn't quite a fan of. Including some of the visual effects and stuff. Like, before we went in, I was saying, it's like, oh, I have a feeling that there's a lot of like in one way, I feel like the guy that's playing the bad Terminator, I feel like he was kind of good as a Terminator, but like a lot of the, like, he doesn't have that weight to him. And like, there were definitely a lot of visual effect shots where there was no weight to the Terminator, like weird light jumps and stuff like that, or weird transformations, or I don't know. That just bothered me, and I guess that's just something I focus on as as my profession. But like, I did like him as a Terminator in the end.
The guy, no,
yeah.
I still wasn't a fan.
Yeah,
no. I think I went in with it like thinking he was not really that menacing looking, and I came out thinking he kind of looked not that menacing either. Like, I don't know.
He was definitely polite and friendly in a lot of times, and I remembered it because you were talking about it. But in the story that I could kind of get, like, it's like, all right, well, he's a Terminator, he's trying to blend in. He's not as rude. Like, I guess he's a little bit more evolved than the T-1000, basically, even though those two never existed in one universe. Because
that made, like, there's the other thing is, I think maybe if they were planning to do a franchise with this, like, it matters more, like, in Terminator 2, we're always going to keep going back to Terminator 2. The point is to stop Skynet, right? Like, it's a major plot. Right. Point is what Skynet is.
Yeah.
Whereas in this, it was just really like, oh, there's this thing called Legion, and it happened, and now it runs everything, and it was a cyber warfare thing, and it took control, and that's all you hear about it for the whole thing.
Right.
I don't know what it is, and like now, like that Danny character stayed alive, but like I don't know, like
Who's Legion?
yeah, who's
How
Legion?
many
Like,
are
why
there?
are they trying to stop the fact that's starting in the first place? Like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
And what started it?
What started it?
Like,
And,
that was the
how's
good-
her staying alive? Like, what's more important, her staying alive or just stopping Legion in the first place?
Yeah, and I mean Terminator 2, obviously, you know, like Terminator 1 was really well set up. And what I loved was that, like Arnold was the bad guy in Terminator 1 and then
Yeah.
the good guy in Terminator 2, which is like already a thing that you don't see very often. So I thought that was really clever. But whatever happened in Terminator 1, like very seamlessly was weaved into the story of Terminator 2. You know, like they found the arm, they found the chip,
Yeah.
and that is what ended up creating Skynet. But when Terminator 1 ended, no one was thinking about, oh, there's a chip, there's an arm.
Yeah.
You know, like that was just something left behind for you to kind of like know that, like no one was, it wasn't a setup. It wasn't like, hey guys, look here, there's a chip. There's going to be part 2.
Yeah.
You got to pay attention, because no one knew there was going to be a part 2. But when there was a part 2, they very cleverly used that for the story. And as you're, again, as you're pointing out as well, it's like in Terminator 2, that was used very well for the purpose of the story. It's like someone found that chip, someone found that arm, and that company used that backwards engineering and created Skynet. And so there was, and they ended up, instead of like, what happened was they sent a Terminator back in time to kill John Connor, who wins the resistance, and that fails. The Terminator's still trying to kill him, but like Sarah is like, all right, let's put the nail in the coffin, just stop it from the source, and they go to Dyson's house to kill him and stop Skynet from ever happening. So actually, the Skynet's attack kind of backfires on them.
Yeah.
But because of their attack, Sarah is like, we got to fucking stop this. And all that kind of story, none of that exists in this movie, even though it's almost a copy of the first movie. There's a chase scene. There's that end scene where he's like kind of melting himself to death. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like it's all so much like they hook up with the uncle.
Yeah.
There's like Carl with the guns. Like
Yeah.
So it's such a copy, yet all the good things are not being taken with it. What made that movie good is not in this movie, and it's so surprising because like the perfect Terminator movie already exists. Why didn't you just like look at that one and learn from that one?
Yeah.
And then I think there's like so many interesting segues to, tell a story in this Terminator universe, Skynet universe, that does not involve a blatant copy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like we already came up with tons of great stories.
10,000
And
BC Terminator. That's
and
what I
we
wanna
didn't even
see.
try it.
I
Yeah,
want to see a Terminator riding a mammoth.
that's what I want.
Or a Terminator mammoth.
Yeah, send something real back in time.
Send an elephant back after John Connor.
Or like send an elephant after another elephant way back in time, because that elephant eventually turns into Sarah Connor, who turns into John Connor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like kill it at the kill it at the root.
Go all the way back to like the friggin' bacteria. Is that a little back?
It's just like a massive Terminator just flamethrowing like a tiny
Flamethrowing the Big Bang. It's like, no, nothing's gonna stop.
Yeah, then I put it in like a little Ziploc bag, and so like it can't explode.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just sad. It's just like, come on, guys. It's not. Is it really that hard to make a good movie these days? Is it really that hard? Why, man? Like
Box office,
like-
I don't know.
James Cameron, you've been sitting on this story for 25 years, and this is the best story you guys could come up with. Like, I know you don't care. You're just cashing in, but come on, man. Like, even if you didn't try, you could have come up with a better story than this, no? That's what I'm thinking. Like, come on.
Well, it's like the story doesn't need to be that big, right? It's just a simple story. Like, this is a simple story.
Yeah,
and
the more simpler you make that story, the less plot holes you have.
Yeah, just cut back on the action, man. Like we don't need to spend $200 billion on crashing two fake planes into each other.
Listen, like even if you kept all the action sequences, like even some were dumb, but even if you keep them, just cut them in half.
Yeah,
like just cut them in half. Keep the best bits of those fight, action sequences, and use the rest of your time to kind of just character build and just slow things down and really utilize that time to really bank on the good bits of your movie, which is like Linda Hamilton, Arnie, banter, and just don't make cheap, shortcuts.
Cheap shortcuts.
Give us a movie with a story.
I want a story.
Just a little story.
Give me a story.
3 stars.
3.5
stars. Well, we'll pick a movie next time that is not a massive blockbuster to change things up a little bit.
So I'm not whinging the whole way through.
Oh yeah.
Like sad Rory.
Throw a little hissy fit every time.
All right. Well, again, thanks for watching. We'll do this again. We always want to hear your feedback. And if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe. That stuff always always matters.
Don't matter to me. It does. It does matter to me. Please do it.
Have you even subscribed to this channel?
I actually haven't. No. I've been like ignoring the notifications.
Oh
Like just
God, like this looks dumb. This looks dumb.
Block.
No, man, it's important because like we're a small channel and like all that kind of stuff. Like the algorithm, YouTube is really annoying, and we got to work that shit. Like we're a bunch of prostitutes.
Yeah. What? Like the stock market.
I mean, we're YouTube's prostitutes.
We actually kind of are. And yeah.
A little YouTube slut.
Just trying to make my way in the big YouTube world.
That's
Man,
right.
I just want to get to the point where people pay me to have a promotional boxing match against.
Yeah, you want to be
podcaster.
would you be the KSI or would you be the Logan Paul?
Man, I'll be either. Whatever.
But I feel like if that ever happens, I need to be your opponent. Unless there's an Australian movie reviewer.
Yeah, there needs to be another team of movie reviewers.
Oh shit! So you fight the one and I fight the other.
In a WWE style tag team match.
Oh shit! Like 4 people in the ring.
Yeah. Well, like 2 at a time, but you tag them in. You seen WWE? Like
I've never seen that shit.
Really?
Is that the wrestling?
Yeah.
I don't wrestling. That's like the worst of the bunch. I feel.
Yeah, it is. But like we could, tag
we would
team
be good at
works.
it. Yeah, okay, we'll tag team.
Yeah.
All right, so someone is out there that is definitely more famous than us because we need the what is it called? We need the exposure.
Yeah.
Rory will wrestle you, and I'll be in the corner, untaggable.
We could do what's his name? The comedian.
Is he funny?
Yeah, he's your favorite. Like you love that film.
Oh, Jim. No, what?
Yeah, Jim Carrey stars in it. Where he like wrestles, like he's like, I'm gonna beat all
Andy Kaufman.
Andy Kaufman, yeah, we'll do that.
Oh, okay. I'm down for that shit. I do love that movie. All right, so subscribe and see us wrestle. Peace.